This ain't no audiobook. This ain't a radio play. This is a Happy Cloud AudioToon. It's that time again for the Further Adventures of Rune, Return of the Miggins, brought to you by Happy Cloud Media and Chrome Toothpaste. Part 4, Hucks of Darkness. Chapter 39, Up the Goromorokye. Personages attempting to find a motive in this now give will be prostituted. Personages attempting to find a moral in it will be vanquished. Personages attempting to find a plot will be shot. Who are you talking to? Rune demanded. The great narrator, who'd momentarily lost his train of thought, answered peevishly. No one. Get on with it, then. Rune was tired and needed to stay alert as they trawled upriver. The Nelly, a cruising yawl, swung to her anchor without a flutter of the sails. Aboard the Nelly were 4 in total. Rune the Gray, the Gax, their pilot, Nebuchadnezzar Jim, and his man, a medium-sized possum named Crawford. Seriously? Rune said upon learning the pilot's name, Nebuchadnezzar Jim. I'll never be able to pronounce that. Thus, Rune thought of the man, the humanish of dark complexion, dark humor, and dark fabrics, he favored velvet, but on the river it was bombazine, as N-word Jim. Upon meeting the wolf and his companion, N-word Jim said, Mr. Kurtz, he dead. Say again, said Rune. Dreadfully sorry, said N-word Jim. I thought we were doing something else. Unbeknownst to Rune or the Gax, Nebuchadnezzar Jim had just finished piloting a pleasure cruise for a group of sentient scarecrows who drunkenly caroused upon the decks of the Nelly singing, We are the hollow men, we are the stuffed men, leaning together, headpiece full of straw, oi, 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 and so on. On second thought, it would have mattered not to Rune nor the Gax if they actually had beknownst this. Crawford be knew, of course, since he'd been there. Together, the 4 upon the Nelly sailed against the flow of the Goromorokye River towards the rising phallic tower of Eizenoz, wherein had retreated Weaselface, or Grimfoyle. Against the pull and tide, the Nelly chugged along the river and Rune towards his final confrontation. The Gax helped Rune through yet another long night of the soul, but ultimately failed to be of much help. You think this will be the physical confrontation or the moral one? The Gax had just finished polishing and sighting his pepper box to Lula. I mean, thematically, we're coming to a close, as well as mathematically, not to mention grammatically, which means I'm close to losing my selfish goal, but gaining the honorable reward, whatever that means, Rune said, shrugging into his mithril long johns. If you believe in such a thing. Makes for a pretty good roadmap anyway, narratively speaking. Sure, my goal was to get this over with and go home, so I guess the correct goal is, what? Walk the land like a monk in that show? Can't outthink this stuff, boss. No need to row, good man, said N-word Jim, snapping Rune from his reverie. The Nelly is equipped with an engine. This is for show, and it served N-word Jim as good an explanation as any. For the benefit of the distant spying eyes, Rune pretended to pole the Nelly forward, as if steering a raft down a long, rushing metaphor. It was all for show. The Nelly, sailing straight down the middle of the Goromorokye into a most hostile Eizenoz environment. Once crossed into Eizenoz, they would shortly face more redcaps, as well as any other deranged souls who'd pledged allegiance to the Zeit ringleader, not to mention the natural perils of the river and the inhabitants of both banks. The danger was necessary for the plan to succeed. The veneer of suicide was essential. You know what I wish? Said the Gax to no one in particular. Rune didn't turn from his place at the rail where he found the brooding best. He wasn't proud of this incessant introspection. He rolled a Frotus cigarette and took a long drag. Lay it on me. I wish that the Nelly had come equipped with a Navarone gun. What do you want that for? You want to tunnel through a mountain? Sheesh. What's the matter? You seasick? Seasick? The Gax was aghast. Gaxes, I assure you, are most buoyant. No, boss, I am not. He made air quotes with both claws. Somehow, seasick. I'm, what's the phrase? Oh, terrified beyond all rational thought. I thought you were indestructible. With a sigh, the Gax sidled up to the railing beside his gentleman. Indestructible and immortal are 2 different things. Besides, none of the rest of you guys are either one. Well, Circe. Then, to the Gax, Rune said, what's with this mortality shtick? Third act confrontation always involves sacrifice. Death of the mentor, loss of the best friend, something to motivate you to face your nemesis. Sees? Says? Whatever. Yeah, I've been thinking about that. What journey is Grimfoyle on? The Gax didn't answer right away. Then, his entire head split into a grin, showing both lower tusks. Gotcha! Brilliant, boss! This is his final downfall! Whether I knew it or not, we faced off 3 times already. He's actually overdue for destruction. Sure, with that haughty spirit having already proceeded. Exactly. Sailing into the belly of the beast, are we, sir? Asked N-word Jim. We did that already. This is the end game. but it sounds to me, if you'll pardon my boldness, that you may still yet be wrestling with the third threshold, in which case your Gax is right, only sacrifice of self will ensure the safety of companions. Rune nodded and gestured toward the long and winding river before them. Hence our sailing into the Serpent's Maw? Yes, said Edward Jim, but I can't help but notice, again pardon the intrusion into something so personal, but your sacrifice could include not only your Gax, sir, but also Crawford and, well, not to make it all about myself, but also me. Crawford emerged from the cabin then, smoothing the lines of his black and red striped shirt before speaking. He adjusted his yellow hat. That's just the way with some people. They get down on a thing when they don't know anything about it. Now, Crawford, I had our own best interests in mind. Nebuchadnezzar, Jim, we am confronted with insurmountable opportunities. Speaking the patois of his home, the Okie Schmoky Swamp. Sometimes you're going to get hurt, and sometimes you're going to get sick. But every time, you're going to get well again. Wise words, Crawford. What's gwine? Gotcha. Groovy. As far as Grimfoyle goes, that's just the way. A person does a low-down thing and then he don't want to take no consequentials of it. Think as long as he can hide it, it ain't no disgrace. The pilots seemed to be satisfied that the matter was settled. The Gax whispered to Rune, "Are they on our side or not?" No idea. What Nebuchadnezzar Jim said about the third threshold was true, and 'twas the reason Rune was traveling up the Goromorokye alone with the Gax and the two pilots. More alone than he'd been recently anyway. The plan had plenty of working parts, while there had been no getting rid of the Gax. "We just got back from hell, boss. A river cruise don't sound so bad." Dusty, Scarlet, and Circe he sent in opposite directions. "Chief," Dusty protested, "I should be facing certain death at your side." "Thanks, Dusty, but I'd prefer to think of my death as less than certain. Anyway, I need you high up and far away." To Scarlet, he said, "And you're sure you know what you're doing?" Red Scarlet took a deep breath and let it out slowly. "Yeah, it's gonna suck, though. I'm open to suggestions." No, it was my idea, and it's the best chance we have for success."
"I'll be with you every step of the way, sis. Neither I nor Jado will permit anything to happen to your love,"
she said to Dusty, who looked back at her with gratitude. Though this was in no way sanctioned by the Sorn Gazir, Scarlet's contacts had yielded plenty of info about Eizenoz. While Grimfoyle had been out masquerading as a Flurvish lord, his agents had been busy shoring up his forces at home. Behind the bleeding walls of Eizenoz Tower was one of the largest graveyards in Trogdine, the last resting place of hundreds of thousands of Burging and Round-Thaw warriors, a mass grave for 1,000 fleeing war. From this, Grimfoyle drew his power. These dead soldiers he would raise for an army of his own. To the west, in the foothills of Eizenoz, was an encampment of more than 1,000 redcaps. To the riverbank at the east, 40-score mercenaries promised power and glory camped uneasily, eager for blood. Above the land hovered a Gothic blimpworks, arrow ships numbering nearly a dozen, 11 to be exact. From the tower flowed a toxic river, cast off from the industry within, building war machines and other weapons of mass destruction. Balls Deep had been a personal vendetta. Grimfoyle was ready to release the full frustration of the remaining Zeit conspirators upon the land. All of it had gone somehow unnoticed by the signatory city-states organized by the Lassiter Compacts, the very organization designed to keep an eye on such things. Graft or run-of-the-mill incompetence, 6 of one half and a dozen of the other. A former acolyte of Lord Sauerkraut, a villainous destroyer from days past, Grimfoyle had taken his master's power for his own, and who could say whom else? Perhaps even that of Lady Di, the former Gesserit. Rune remembered seeing her often in the company of her husband, that odious Duke Leto, and the oily weasel-face lounging in the ruby atrium at midday. If given a million fleens, Rune would never have guessed that Weaselface had been a Zeit, much less the infamous Grimfoyle. Yet there Grimfoyle had been the whole time, whispering to King Marineck the 11th as he succumbed to madness, tempting Prince Cygnus, before ultimately transforming the young man's body and destroying his mind. There was chaotic evil, and then there was just being a jerk. At Balls Deep, the B&S army turned to Rune and swore their allegiance. Adding to the call were the Cow clansmen, who raised their banners to him. Without a single word from Circe, the Suck-You Dryads offered their splinters and steel. Throughout his life, Rune had led small bands of ruffians, commanded miniature platoons of mercenaries, cajoled bystanders into joining this resistance or that. Charisma and con artistry he'd learned in the slums of Lower Hogarth. Never once had Rune ever finished painting a fence by himself. No matter where he went, he found some annoying personage begging to be a mark. What the late Leto had said to him was true. Rune had never tasted real power of leadership, until that moment in the Balls Deep courtyard, when 3,000 personages, his own war hero compatriots included, chanted his name.
You have my axe! You have my steel! You have my neighbor! You
After careful consideration, Rune decided that didn't suck. If this was to indeed be the final conflict, sacrifice or no, Great Bernie Woods or no, prophecies be damned, Rune intended to meet his final confrontation head on. Thus concludes this episode of the Further Adventures of Rune. Tune in next week via your favorite audio delivery system. Don't forget, full episodes and super mega chunks are available on Patreon. But you knew that already.